All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How's it going? I am Is There No One Else, and the video I'm bringing you today, it comes with a little bit more of a somber tone. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Some shots were fired this last week, and we now have a platform war. It started last week. NessieSO came out with a video, and he said, Essence Thief and Shieldbreaker are garbage. Do not run these sets. They're not good. And then, me being the big tough guy that I am, I swallowed my pride and I didn't say anything, and I was like, all right, well, that's just an opinion. It's not a big deal. I'll move on. I'll run my Shieldbreaker in silence. And today, King of Games came out and said the same thing. And since Shieldbreaker cannot stand up and defend itself, I am going to be its loyal guardian, and I'm going to fight for it here, and I'm going to explain why Shieldbreaker is popular and why it actually is good. In all seriousness, though, guys, we don't have a console war. King of Games is awesome. NessieSO is awesome. Their content is great. I will provide the link in the description for both of their both their channels, because I highly recommend checking both of them out. They both provide their own unique content. It's good to get different voices and different opinions on things. When I watched both their videos, I agreed with about 90% of what they said. But there's a 10% that I disagree with, that it's completely unusable and it's not worth using, and that's what this video is for. I wanted to explain why it's still useful, why it's worth running on some very specific builds. So for those of you guys that are interested in Vigor Math type videos, this is your wheelhouse. You've been clamoring for Vigor Math for a long time. You finally got it. So time to celebrate. Go get yourself some popcorn, go get yourself a beer. We are going to do some math. So yeah, that's what this video is. We are going to compare Shieldbreaker, and we are going to try and quantify what Shieldbreaker does and why it actually is valuable on a few specific builds. So that's what the video is. With that being said, guys, let's dive into it. For those of you guys that have not seen Shieldbreaker, it's right here. Max stamina, stamina recovery, weapon damage. Increase your damage done by 6%. This effect is doubled when attacking targets with a damage shield active. A lot of you guys are looking at this and you're like, well, okay, well, what the hell does 6% mean? Like, what is 6% more damage? How much damage is that? And I totally get it. However, it's not 6%. This is additive to your damage, so it actually only gives you like 4.25% more damage and 8.5% more damage to shields. And now you guys hear this part and you're like, great, what the fuck does that mean? How much damage is this giving you? Well, because it's a percent modifier, guys, it depends on how much damage your build is packing outside of this specific percentage. And so if you're a tank and you have no damage, you have baby dick deeps, you're not going to do any damage. 4%, 4.2.5% modifier of 0% damage, of zero damage, is still zero damage. It's not going to give you anything. However, if you are, you got a shit ton of damage packed into your build, this 4.25% modifier can be a lot. And it can stack up to a lot, and it can be comparable to a lot of other sets. And so that's why I wanted to show you guys this, so that you guys can kind of have an idea, and you guys can compare and contrast for yourself and decide if you want to run the specific set for your build. So I'm showing you guys my Nightblade build that I was running in the Dragonhold DLC that was very effective. It's still effective now. I'm going to look and test a few other sets. I don't know if this is what I'm going to run in Dragonhold, but in Dragonhold, this is what I settled on for a lot of reasons. So I'm running 5-piece New Moon Acolyte on the body, 5 medium, 1 heavy blood spawn, 1 light blood spawn, Nirnhone Shieldbreaker, all infused with weapon damage enchants, 2125 stamina recovery, just around 25k health, 24/7 here. I am an orc. I'm running the Warrior Mundus Stone, Potentate's Bow backbarred with a weapon spell damage enchant. This is my build that I posted on my channel. Feel free to go check it out. I have 6,200 weapon damage fully buffed with this build, so very, very hard hitting with Shieldbreaker. Yeah, so far with this specific build, my onslaught tooltip is 22,218. Keep that number in mind. We are going to try and min-max. We're going to compare this to another set to show you exactly how much Shieldbreaker is giving me on my build, and if other options are more viable for what I'm trying to do. So keep these numbers in mind: 25k health, 2125 stamina recovery, 22,218 tooltip damage on Onslaught. So what we are going to do is we are going to compare it to Warrior's Fury. And the reason we are comparing it to Fury is because Fury gives you 600 weapon damage fully procced. Everybody knows that Fury in general is more damage than Shieldbreaker. And so we know that the maximum amount that Fury gives us will supersede what Shieldbreaker does. But the other good part of this, guys, is on this website, which I highly recommend, it allows you to input the amount of stacks that you have. And so you can do 20 stacks, you can do 10 stacks, whatever. And what we can do with this set is we can input the amount of stacks and we can figure out how much weapon damage with Fury we need to equal what Shieldbreaker is giving me on my specific build. So that's what we're going to do here. Right now, I am just min-maxing exactly. Oh my gosh, I'm inputting some crazy stuff right now. I'm inputting numbers to get them back to roughly where they were before. So Fury gives you a health bonus, so you're going to have more health with Fury than you would with Shieldbreaker. So I took some health out of my character, and I put less points in here and more points in the stamina, which is a boost to the damage for Fury. However, Fury also, Shieldbreaker has a recovery aspect, so I had to change one of my infused weapon damage to robust stamina recovery. And the reason we change it to robust is because we only need a recovery enchant to get the number that, to get it to the same amount, and then we can input robust, and then that will still boost our damage, and this will essentially get us as close as possible to what Shieldbreaker is giving us. So if we look at our numbers, we're at 25k health, so we have 300 more health. We're at 2192 stamina recovery. We really can't get closer. It was 2130, so it's 60 difference in recovery, which is pretty good. 6300 weapon damage, but overall these numbers are very good where we want them to be. And if we input 20 stacks into Fury, which is 600 weapon damage for the 5-piece, we have 22,899, which is way more damage than the 22,218 that Shieldbreaker was giving us. But what we can do is we can input stacks, and we can figure out exactly where Warrior's Fury equals Shieldbreaker. And I already did it ahead of time. With 13 stacks, it gets us at 22,210 tooltip damage for our specific build. And so 13 stacks of Fury is equal to 390 weapon damage. And so with my specific build, running New Moon Acolyte, an infused weapon damage and chance with the recovery that I have, Shieldbreaker is the equivalent of 390 weapon damage. Now, if I was running a Master's Bow and I had 300 more weapon damage on my back bar, if I was running the infused bow as well and I had 400 to 500 more, this number would jump higher. I'm pretty sure at one point I was running like 420 to 430 weapon damage that Shieldbreaker was giving me over any other set. And so when you look at Dragonhold specifically, that's one of the harder, that's one of the better damage dealing sets in the game. It's better than Hunting's Rage. If you're solo, I like having that flat damage over a set like Clever Alchemist because oftentimes I have to use my pot defensively. If you're Stamina Nightblade, you're not going to use a set like Swordslinger or Automaton because you are using non-2H abilities and you're using non-physical damage abilities, and they're not buffed by those sets. So those sorts of things come into focus. And so when you're comparing those builds, or with the sets that you can run, it all of a sudden starts to become a little bit more clear, in my opinion. As a Stamina Nightblade, I'm not going to run Fury because I'm avoiding a bunch of damage, I'm kiting, I'm using Cloak, and so sometimes the stacks are going to drop off of me. Like, Fury is just not a super great set for a typical Stamina Nightblade build because of how the stacks work, and Cloak avoids incoming dot damage, and if you Cloak properly, you're not building stacks, and you don't want them to drop off because then it has to reset and start all over again. So Fury is not an option on that class. We're already running New Moon, and if we're going to run a set like Onslaught, or an ultimate like Onslaught, we're not going to run Spriggans. We're not going to run Night Mother's Gates because in those situations, the 5-piece is ruined running. Onslaught already ignores our overall resistances of our enemies, and so we don't want to add more pen to a 5-piece bonus when we're already eliminating all pen that enemy has. And so you want to go for weapon damage sets. And so when you look in this specific instance, Shieldbreaker in Dragonhold was one of the best damage sets for onslaught doinking in the game because it gave you so much flat damage on your front bar and it was there all the time. So if you were running a weapon damage set with Shieldbreaker, you were hitting really freaking hard, which is why I ran it. If you're running a defensive set, like let's say you're running Pariah or Impreg or something like that, you were probably better off running another set because at the end of the day, you're not scaling your overall weapon damage at high. It's not going to scale as high, so maybe you're in like the 300 to 350 range. On King of Games video, he showed that Shieldbreaker wasn't even giving as much damage as Hunting's Rage. And that's because the other stuff that he was wearing was not as high weapon damage as what I'm currently running, and so it wasn't modifying his already built-in damage that he had on his build. And so it didn't look as good for his specific build because he wasn't running as much weapon damage as I am on this build. And so the vigor math of this video cut short is Shieldbreaker is a good option if you're not looking to boost healing, you're looking to maximize burst potential using a set like Onslaught, and that's basically it. So I posted a build yesterday where I'm running Sword and Board and 2H on a Stamina DK, and I have Titanborn on. I've run other builds where, I'm not running Shieldbreaker. I'm running Fury and New Moon because, if you're more of a melee in your face build, you want to rely on healing and damage mitigation over dodging. On a Stamina Nightblade or a Bow and 2H Stamina Necromancer where I'm dodging or avoiding a bunch of incoming damage, I prefer having some upfront, like 100% uptime, maximum burst potential, because you never know when one of your decent swings is going to crit and it's going to put him at half health and you just want to onslaught and finish the job. I'm personally a proponent of not having stacked, like building stacks on Fury. Like, I'm not saying that Fury's a bad set because it's not. I'm just saying, like, I like knowing that I have 100% damage all the time when I see an opening and I want to take it. And so that's why I choose the sets that I choose. So if you're running a Bow and 2H build like a Nightblade, Shieldbreaker is an interesting option. If you're running any other ultimate besides Onslaught, if you're running Incap, Dawnbreaker, Leap, or whatever, Spriggans, Titanborn, all those are better options. But specifically for Onslaught, for an avoid, like a build built around kiting and avoiding damage, Shieldbreaker is more than viable. In my opinion, it's definitely still one of the better sets out there, because if I have 390 weapon damage against people without shields, that means I have 780 weapon damage versus people with shields. If you go into BGs, there is a huge Sork population. If you go on PC, there's a huge Sork population. It's going to be, there's no other set out there that's giving you 780 weapon damage against damage shields in the same way that Shieldbreaker does. And so that's my point on Shieldbreaker. As far as Shieldbreaker and Essence Thief goes, the other percent modifier set, never run them both at the same time. Ness said it in his video. They both, Ness said that neither one of them is very good. You don't want to run them both. But I just kind of showed you that you can have, with my specific build, you can have 780 weapon damage versus shields. If you're running Essence Thief with New Moon Acolyte in the same build, it's probably roughly 700 weapon damage, which is going to be better than Fury, which is going to be better than Clever Alchemist. It's going to be better than all these other sets because of the modifier that it's giving you. And so overall, for percent modifier sets, you need to be packing damage in order to take advantage of the percent modifier that these sets are giving you. If you're not, and you're building, a more or less well-rounded build, and you're running something like Pariah or Impreg or some sort of tanky set, and then you're looking to fit a damage set in there with it, Shieldbreaker and Essence Thief aren't going to give you as much probably as just a max weapon damage or max pen set would. And so that's what you have to look at. You need to look at how you kind of want to make your build and how you want to min-max some things. But if you go more of the glass cannon, nuke fucking everybody route like me, Shieldbreaker is a viable option. If you want something more well-rounded, something a little bit more tanky, Shieldbreaker is not for you. If you want something with higher healing, Shieldbreaker is not for you. So those are the things that you need to those are my thoughts on Shieldbreaker. I don't think it's completely useless. I do think it's very niche in what it's good for. It's very specific. I found it to be very good on Bow and 2H builds where you're kiting and avoiding damage. Outside of that, I don't really run the set. So that's going to be the end of this video. Like I said, guys, it's all love for me between King of Games and Ness. I think those guys are awesome. They're two of my favorite content creators. I'm just completely joking. I'm sarcastic. Sometimes my dry humor gets the best of me. My humor isn't always everybody else's, so if you hear me like deadpan something, I'm probably joking. It's tough for me to get that across, but those guys are awesome. I just disagree on that one point, and I wanted to try and explain it because I didn't see that in either one of their videos, and just wanted to get that out there. But yeah, absolutely do not run Essence Thief and Shieldbreaker together. Run either or, and definitely look at the build editor and compare Shieldbreaker versus other sets and see which ones you like the most before you invest, 400K for a Shieldbreaker mall, because that's what it costs on Xbox, if I remember correctly. So those are my thoughts. If you guys have any questions or comments, please provide in the section below. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.